Today, we are going to tackle a topic that often confuses learners. We will discuss a set of connectors that express contrast. These connectors include despite, in spite of, though, although, even though, regardless of, notwithstanding, no matter what, and irrespective of. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a clear understanding of when and how to use these connectors. So, let's start. Despite and in spite of. Both of these words are used to introduce a contrast or opposition to something else. They are typically followed by a noun or a pronoun. For example, despite the rain, she went for a walk. In spite of feeling tired, he stayed up late to finish his assignment. Here, notice that despite and in spite of are followed by nouns or gerund. They introduce a condition that is contrary to what one might expect, but it does not prevent the action or result from occurring. Here we can replace despite with in spite of in the sentence. So, despite the rain, she went for a walk. The sentence would then become, in spite of the rain, she went for a walk. Similarly, we can replace in spite of with despite in the sentence. In spite of feeling tired, he stayed up late to finish his assignment. The sentence would then become, despite feeling tired, he stayed up late to finish his assignment. Both the terms have similar meaning and can be used interchangeably in most cases. However, there is a slight difference in their uses and structure. Despite is considered slightly more formal than in spite of. It is commonly used in written and formal contexts. In spite of is considered more informal and is often used in spoken English. Despite is used to emphasize the contrast between two opposing ideas or circumstances, and in spite of is used to highlight a negative condition or obstacle that is overcome. Overall, the choice between despite and in spite of depends on certain factors such as the formality of the context, personal preferences, and the specific emphasis you want to convey in your sentence. Common mistakes to avoid. These prepositions should be followed by a noun, pronoun, or a gerund, not by a verb. It will be correct to say, despite his tiredness, he completed the project. On the other hand, one common mistake is placing the subject after the phrase in spite of. For example, the rain, in spite of, we went for a walk. Remember that the subject should come immediately after the preposition of. The correct way is, in spite of the rain, we went for a walk. Another common mistake is using a positive statement after the phrase in spite of instead of a negative or contrasting statement. For example, it would be incorrect to say, in spite of the sunny weather, we stayed indoors. Instead, you should say, despite the sunny weather, we stayed indoors. I hope I could make you understand. Now, let's move on to though, although, and even though. These connectors are also used to introduce a contrast between two ideas. They are followed by a clause. They have similar meanings and can be used interchangeably in many cases. Let's see some examples. She wanted to go out, although, even though it was raining heavily. Here, despite the heavy rain, she desired to go out. All the three connectors indicate a contrast between her desire to go out and the fact that it was raining heavily. They all convey the same meaning, with slight differences in formality and emphasis. Though, although, even though he was tired, he decided to stay up and watch the movie. That is, despite feeling tired, he chose to stay awake and watch the movie. All the three connectors introduce a contrast between his fatigue and his decision to stay up. Let's have one more example. They disagreed on many issues, even though they were best friends. It means, despite being best friends, they had differences of opinion on various matters. Let's analyze the similarities among the words. They are used to introduce a subordinate clause expressing concession or contrast to the main clause. For example, although, though she studied hard, she failed. Here, the subordinate clause she studied hard is contrasted with the main clause she failed. This means that even though she studied hard, she still failed. Differences in formality. Though and even though are generally considered more formal and appropriate for written English, while though is more informal and commonly used in spoken English, as in, although even though it was raining, we decided to go for a walk. This sentence is more formal. It was raining, but we decided to go for a walk though. This sentence is quite informal. Emphasis on the sentence. Even though adds emphasis to the contrast, implying a stronger degree of opposition compared to though or although. For example, even though she had studied for hours, she couldn't solve the math problem. Here it emphasizes the strong contrast between studying and not being able to solve the problem. Moving on, we have regardless of and notwithstanding. These connectors have the same meaning as despite and in spite of. They are used to introduce a contrast and are usually followed by a noun or a gerund. Take a look at some examples. Regardless of his busy schedule, he always finds time to exercise. Notwithstanding the challenges, they successfully completed the project. Here, both regardless of and notwithstanding emphasize that something is not influenced by a particular factor. They show that the contrasted idea remains true despite the circumstances. Regardless of the weather, the event will take place as scheduled. Means the event will happen according to the schedule, regardless of the weather condition. Notwithstanding the criticism, she remained confident in her abilities. That is, despite facing criticism, she maintained her confidence in her own skills. And yes, both the terms can be used interchangeably in these examples. Finally, we have no matter what and irrespective of. These phrases express determination to proceed regardless of any situation. No matter what means that something is true or happens in all situations. It expresses a determined and unwavering approach, emphasizing that a particular condition or situation will not alter one's decision or commitment. For example, she will support her friend no matter what happens. This means that regardless of any difficulties that arise, she will keep supporting her friends. No matter what the cost, he will buy the car he has been dreaming of. Here, the person is determined to purchase the car irrespective of its price. On the other hand, irrespective of conveys disregard for a particular factor or condition, indicating that it does not affect the outcome or decision. For example, irrespective of the weather, the outdoor event will take place. This means that the event will proceed regardless of the weather. She will pursue her dreams irrespective of the obstacles in her path. Here, the person is determined to chase their aspirations despite any challenges they may encounter. Similarities. Both the phrases emphasize determination and persistence. They convey a sense of resilience in the face of adversity, and both the expressions suggest that a particular condition or factor does not alter the outcome or decision. Differences. No matter what is followed by a clause, whereas irrespective of is followed by a noun or a gerund. No matter what emphasizes a commitment or unwavering support, while irrespective of focuses on disregarding a specific factor or condition. And the phrase no matter what implies a stronger determination because it emphasizes that something will happen regardless of any obstacle or challenges. Whereas the phrase irrespective of simply means that something is true or happens regardless of something else. Well, some may ask if we can use some of the words we discussed interchangeably as they look similar in certain cases. My answer is that it depends. Let's talk about that. Yes, they may look similar in certain cases, but they do not always have the same meaning. I have provided a table that shows the meaning of all the words or the phrases that might look alike and some examples of how they are used in sentences. Please take a moment to review the table and try to understand the main idea. And getting back to the question, if we can use these words interchangeably, yes, we can sometimes. However, it is important to be aware of the small differences in meaning so that we can use the right word in the right context. That's all for today's lesson. I hope you have a better understanding of how to use these words and phrases. If you found this video helpful, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.